for about 7 to 8 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes. And so I thought if I gave them a mystery, that would invoke a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So my speech is going to start out that I could give a speech on, that mysteries invoke questions, and I could give a speech on Amelia Earhart, who disappeared in 1937, or Jimmy Hoffa, who disappeared in 1975. But I choose to give a speech on the most titillating and puzzling mystery in American history that has not been solved in over 400 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good mystery, and I'm learning a lot that I didn't know, kind of researching it. When did you first hear about Lost Copy of Roanoke, Mark?
I wondered if that's what it was going to be.
I think high school. I think maybe American history in high school, maybe. But it seems about then.
Lisa and Michael told me they learned about it at grade school. Kathy, when did you learn
I
about
was going to say 8th grade.
Really?
Oh, for me, I was a full-fledged adult.
it? I was in college when I first heard about it.
Yeah, I didn't take many of those classes in college, so I think I was a full-fledged adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
What are you finding out about it?
Well, they vanished without. Oh, well, let me tell you what I don't know, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So, in 1887, the Spanish had been establishing colonies like down in Florida. So the English thought they want to compete on the world stage. They have to establish a colony. So they chose to establish a colony in North America. So they ended up choosing Roanoke Island. Which is now in North Carolina. The outer banks of North Carolina kind of shield Roanoke Island from view, so that if the Spanish went by, they wouldn't see that there was an English colony there. So there was this map maker who was to be the future governor of Roanoke, and he in 1587 he left 117 colonists on this island, including his pregnant daughter Eleanor Dare.
It's down here.
Yeah.
And Roanoke,
Nope, in the pull-out drawer there.
Dare County, North Carolina. But anyhow, he leaves his pregnant daughter, Eleanor Dare, amongst the 117th, and while 70 colonists, and while he's still there, his daughter gives birth to a little girl named Virginia Dare. She was the first English child born in North America. So they arrive in July of that. And they don't have enough time to plant crops and grow food. So he says to them, all right, you guys, build houses, and here are the supplies I have. I'm going to go back to England. I'm going to get more supplies, and I'll bring some more colonists. Well, John White backed, but that's the time when England has a conflict with Spain. Spain is, sent the Spanish Armada in 1588. So Queen Elizabeth decreed that all ships were to stay near England and protect the realm. John White couldn't make the return trip like he promised. So he, it wasn't until 3 years later, the year is 1590, that he gets supplies and he goes to make that trip. And so he kind of arrives at dusk, it was getting too dark for them to go ashore. But to their astonishment, they saw a huge bonfire there. But they know we're here. So
Okay, I'll make you one.
when the next day came, they got in their rowboats and
There's
they
little
started
bagels in there.
paddling towards Roanoke Island, and they could see that colonists had erected a palisade, a fort, for protection, and they were quite excited. But then their excitement turned to an eerie. They became very concerned. Everything was eerie. There was vegetation growing up around the colony, and there were no people to greet them. So they thought, what in the world is going on? They had found, when they got ashore, they had found where the bonfire was, but they found Indian footprints, bare footprints. So it was an Indian that Indians that had set that bonfire. But they started to look around, and they saw that the colonists had, treasure chests that they had buried, to protect valuable things, but they were all dug up. And there were books scattered around. Now, books were rare back then, or very precious back then, but they were scattered on the ground. So were some jewels, and so were some farm implements, and so were some firearms of that era. And they were extremely mystified because they thought, what happened here? Is there any? There were no skeletal remains. No, if there were a massacre or a pandemic or something like that swept through, there'd be evidence of human remains or grave sites. But so John White started to look for clues because he had told them before he left that if you need to move, you leave a message where you're going, and if you are moving under duress, make a cross sign next to your message. And so they started, and if you do move, we would anticipate that you'll move like inland, 50 miles inland or something like that. So they start looking around, and then they find this tree with 3 letters engraved in it. C-R-O, crow. Well, what does that mean? This didn't mean nothing, meant nothing to them, and the message had no cross by it. So were they in danger, or were they not? I mean, they had built a palisade, a fort, but their houses that they had, they were it looked like they were torn down. So anyhow, they're looking around, and they're on on the fort the word Croatan. Well, Croatan meant something to them. It was the name of a friendly tribe that lived on the island of Croatan, which is now Hatteras Island, North Carolina.
Cape Hatteras.
But they had just passed that island when they came to Roanoke, and there was nothing unusual there. And so they thought, well, I bet you anything that our lost colonists are on Hatteras Island or Croatan. So they start to pack up and head to Croatan Island. Then a terrible storm comes up, damages their ship, and they may have lost an anchor. They figured their best bet was to see if they could make it back to England. Went back to England without being able to check out their hunch. That's where the lost colony was. So when he gets back to England, John White's health starts to fail. And he dies before he can make it back. So nobody knows what happened to the colony until about 20 years later. The English tried to set up another colony, and this time in Jamestown, in the Chesapeake Bay area. John Smith, and everybody and many people know about the story of John Smith and Pocahontas. But while John Smith was a prisoner of Chief Powhatan, he hears rumors that there were English people that were massacred, that were wiped out. And they were just rumors. He had no proof. And when John Smith had also heard that there were some men that were dressed in English clothes. And so he wondered if that was something to do with the colony. Well, I can't remember why they didn't check that out further, but hostile Indians or whatever. But so anyhow, that was one possibility. So bottom line, there are people have tried for, like I said, for 100 years to to solve this mystery. So in around 1930s, 20s, and 30s, a series of stones appeared, rocks that had been chiseled, messages chiseled in. Probably about 29 of them, but of the 29, only one is considered possibly and these are called the Dare stones because these were allegedly written by Eleanor Dare. And the one possible authentic Dare stone, they feel the way the rock was weathered and everything could be authentic. And this was found not quite 50 miles in, but where she thought maybe they would start looking for them if they were lost. and she explained that they were with the Indians, and that her husband had died and that her daughter Virginia had died, but that was about it. And then so now they're doing all kinds of digs, archaeological digs, and they found on the island, Hatteras Island, they found a gold ring that was made during Elizabethan times, and they found the handle of an English sword. But that could have been there by trade. It doesn't necessarily mean that they lived with the Indians.
So, Dave, can I ask you a quick
So
question?
they're
Just a second,
trying to
just a
do
second.
DNA studies
There.
now. Yes, among the Indians, there is reports of some of the Indians having DNA, European DNA. But when did that come into being?
So that's my question. Are there living relatives that we know are living relatives of people that disappeared on Roanoke?
No, I don't know that far, but they're looking into that. And then
'Cause
Wayne
that's
brought
the answer.
were reports back then. John Smith had heard reports that there were people who were kind of blondish hair and like blue or gray eyes. Apparently, it wasn't. I mean, it's not. It wasn't. It wasn't that. It's kind of rare, but it did happen where the albinoism in that tribe had a greater, higher percentage than other places. So was that evidence of a lost tribe, or was that just albinoism? So anyhow, the mystery is still unsolved for 400 years. Now, the mystery so possibilities, and most likely they cohabited. I mean, they were absorbed in by an Indian tribe. A second thing is they could have been massacred. Maybe the colonists split two. Half of them went to Croatan, the other one went inland, and maybe the half that went inland got massacred. So they got either absorbed in, massacred, split up, or the one that I don't. People are just crazy. I don't promote this, but this is a theory. Space aliens took all 117 of them. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think they just got absorbed in food. They didn't have food. I think that the tribe that they went with was more more open to outsiders joining them. Because here's the thing: they sent scouting parties before they sent up the colony of Roanoke. I think before the colonists arrived, they scouting parties. They